My most complimented items that I've worn in past, I guess, I don't know, forever. Welcome back to the channel, by the way. If you're not a subscriber, then what are you doing? Hit that little button, man. It's right there. Please, please, please. It'll help me out a lot, honestly. You know, this is kind of hurt my self-esteem at this point, begging for subscribers, but kind of got to do it. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the main topic of the video, which is why people compliment my items. Again, this is really why other people compliment it. I think there's some education here in why other people tend to like some of the stuff that I wear. Obviously, I'm not going around complimenting my own items. That would be the most narcissistic thing I could do outside of making a video about my most complimented pieces of clothing. Anyways, I think that we can get right into this video with the first item. All right, my Lee Riders duplicate, technically. My double RL jacket that looks like a Lee Riders jacket. It's a type 2, and I think the reason why people like this is honestly, it's because it kind of reminds you of grandma, or excuse me, not grandma, honestly, let's be honest. Grandpa, Uncle Ben, you know, dad, or whatever. You have an older dad. And, you know, people from those older decades used to work on the land, used to work on a ranch, maybe a coal mine, railroad or something like that, and they would wear jackets like this because they were functional. Now, this is obviously not meant to be functional, but I'm sure it would be. There are lots of things from the past they still kept with this jacket, and mostly it's made of a better, probably more historically accurate fabric, and it's all cotton, but without the elastane, and of course there's a certain heft of weight to the fabric. Now, I think people like this because it kind of reminds you of like handyman, you know, utilization per wear, like something that's going to be hard and rugged, and something that's going to last for a long time. And in today's economy, when people's buying power is down, it kind of feels comfortable to know that what you're going to buy is going to last you for like years and years on end. You know what I mean? Why would you want to buy something that's $800 and doesn't last you, you know, 800 years or whatever? I don't know, that's kind of silly, but you get what I'm saying. You kind of want cost per wear. Now, if you're into denim in general, you know that there's tiers to denim. And then, of course, the Levi's that you get out of Sears used to be probably decent denim. And I think actually most brands that reference vintage denim probably got some denim from Sears, or like a Levi's pair of jeans that was sold in Sears. But nowadays, there's a lot of synthetics, a lot of plastics in it, and it just isn't the same. So 100% cotton, hard wearing, you know, one wash or raw denim that's going to develop some patina and character over time. People get crazy about that in today's world because that's just not what we see. We see fashion more so for shock value and awe, but we don't see it in a functional and beauty sense where people want to look good and also have something that works. There's a thing about luxury where it's like a sliding scale. It's like it can look good, but it can also be super delicate, or it can be super well made and also super durable. And usually people want to kind of be in the middle of that. Like, they don't mind some delicate pieces, but a jacket or a pair of pants, you kind of want that to last a lot longer. I think the Type 2 is popular because it's a cropped version of a denim jacket. This is the Lee version. The Type 1 and Type 2 Levi's as well also are cropped. It's hard to explain, like, but I feel like there's just a lot of extra fabric with the Type 3, and people kind of don't want it, even though people don't ride horses anywhere. Like, obviously horses are expensive anyways, and you need a lot of land. Go to the bank and try to get a horse loan. Not going to work out for you. It just kind of feels like there's more utility to the cropped version. I also have a short torso, and I'm not the tallest guy ever, so cropped just looks kind of regular on me, but it's like something that fits my stature, my size. And also, honestly, I think it's just easier to wear a lot of the times when you just go out to dinner. You just want to unbutton that bottom jacket if it's cold outside and you don't have a lined jacket. And you're like, I can wear a light sweater underneath. You just unbutton that last button or two. You can sit down without getting that barrel belly. You know what I mean? Same thing with a motorcycle or a horse or whatever like that. And that's kind of like the best part about it as far as its construction and fit. But honestly, on top of all that, it's just a very hard wearing piece. I mean, people just love that. People love that idea. And let's be honest, the double RL logo obviously does something as well. It's right there on my chest, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of easy to see. Let's be honest, a lot of the times people look at something and see a logo or a brand name and they go, dope, you know what I mean? That's not why you should like something, but it does help. People recognize Ralph Lauren and they think about quality and designer clothing when they think about Ralph Lauren. But yeah, who doesn't want to feel like a cowboy a little bit? But when people see you wearing the higher tier, higher end version, they kind of want to ask about it. They kind of want to look at it. They kind of want to go, you know, why is that more expensive? They're not going to ask you all the time, but they're going to look and wonder. And it's a conversation piece. Who would have thought a cropped black denim jacket was a conversation piece? Now, all the things I said about my denim jacket go for denim jeans as well. And of course, I have on my trusty sugarcane Okinawa denim. They have a cool snakeskin patch, cool pockets, but honestly, that's stuff that people wouldn't notice right off the bat. I think what people notice, and one of the reasons why they're complimenting this pair of jeans so often, because I do get a lot of compliments on these, is because of the absolutely neppy, slubby, uneven texture that these jeans have, and it's beautiful. Now, I think what people like about it is the fact that it looks kind of beat, but it also looks kind of designer because it looks different than what normal people would get. And honestly, even if you go back into the past, not every pair of denim is super nappy, you know what I mean? It kind of looks pre-distressed in a sort of a way. But I guess what I'm saying at the end of the day is that nappy, slubby, inconsistent pattern kind of draws a little bit of intrigue, and people don't always know why it looks like that. Now, I know because it's made on a vintage shuttle loom, and also it's made of two different types of fabric, which is sugarcane fibers and also cotton. So it's like a 50-50 of those two materials, and it just fades really nice because two different fabrics fade inconsistently. The fabric's, like, I guess, structure, like on a cellular level, it's just different, and so it's going to take on color different and lose color different inconsistently. It's going to give you a really nice overall vintage fade, but not like a really crazy deep contrast fade. And I don't know if everyone's looking for that crazy contrast fade. Most people probably nowadays want to get that more even all over fade, and these are great denim for that. These are also Japanese selvage, and they're of course made on vintage shuttle looms. They're not technically raw, they're one wash, but people don't know that. And people do know what selvage does nowadays, and they kind of like that, and they want to ask about it, and it's popular. Again, all the stuff I said about the denim jacket goes for the jeans too. It's something that wears well, really well, and it's something that's going to last a very long time. And I think that people recognize that, and they want to have something that lasts a long time. Been outside, I've been outside all day, so I'm sweating. I'm a little bit glossy. I look like a glazed donut, brown and shiny. Our Legacy Camion boots. I don't get like a ton of compliments, but when people figure out what they are, it kind of makes them want to compliment it. Honestly, even though people have talked a lot about quality issues, and people have kind of like stepped away from buying designer in the same way that they did in like 2018 through 2023 maybe. People do want, again, something that lasts a long time. It's versatile and it looks good. I haven't had any quality issues with mine, and honestly, I don't really know what people are talking about. Maybe they got a bad batch, but a nice simple black side zip boot, I guess is what you would call it, is just versatile. People do sometimes recognize the boots for just being nice boots. Boot is just a nice square toe boot. My Capital Katsuragi raincoat, I think the raincoat looks more like a kimono kind of, or a naragi fit, and then it has this very even green wash that reminds you of a faded M65 military jacket with this crazy exaggerated hood, and it's just not something people see every day. I think the reason why people like these items outside of those cool things is because they are just a little bit more of an exaggerated, elevated version of something that people can wrap their heads around. Now, like Rick Owens stuff, and you know, I've owned like number 9 pieces, and people don't really know about that stuff. And so even though it's a graphic tee or some jeans, sometimes it's kind of hard to wrap their head around like the version of it that number 9 or Rick or like Julius would put out. You might find that if you don't have a certain fabric or texture to your clothing, it might be hard to style it. So it's not necessarily the case that you can go get Gap clothes and just automatically wear it, you know. But it is the case that some stuff from the Gap, some stuff from a more fashion conscious, like cheaper brand, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, but a cheaper, more fashion forward brand might be able to make things that are kind of like in the same wheelhouse. And so it's good to have as like that one elevated piece. Even if your basic essentials are Uniqlo, Gap, or Abercrombie, you can always have both of these pieces that kind of go into like that Americana, like vintage, or just like timeless clothing. It's not even all vintage, it's just like timeless stuff. It's vintage and still around, or it's vintage inspired, because that stuff is just so useful, so ubiquitous in everyday life. And people recognize that even if they don't put that into words, you know what I mean? They can kind of see that. Alright, I think that's enough, honestly. I think there's enough pieces. I think that the point kind of got across. And again, the education in this video it's not like a flex video, and it's not like a showcasing or a pickups video, because I've shown you this stuff before. But I think the reason why this type of stuff gets more, I guess, showcased on this channel, and the reason why it's complimented is because, you know, it's just so ubiquitous. Like the stuff that I'm reviewing here or talking about here is all just an elevated version of something that someone would normally wear, and I think people like that. Some of the pieces from these brands that I grew up on are just a little bit out of the wheelhouse for most people, a little bit off, you know what I mean? Off-white, no pun intended. Even like super fashion heads are like kind of going more towards like more like Americana, Amerikaji if you're Japanese, or like Japanese clothing. Just more like, I guess, utilized clothing, I guess, because how often do you wear, and I wear Rick Owens, but how often do you wear drop crotch pod shorts? You know what I mean? Like the average person probably doesn't have a use for that, and I like it. And you should support those smaller brands, those independent brands especially, and you should definitely like wear the stuff that you like. And I will still wear the more avant-garde stuff that I like, but I think maybe it just kind of feels out of place to wear that stuff in this day and age, given that the market is not great, housing is expensive, living is expensive, buying power for the average American is kind of down. Even if we make money, things are kind of like being overpriced, I guess, and it's sort of like evening out the money that we're making, unfortunately. Yeah, what do you guys think, man? Do you guys think that you guys have similar things in your closet that people compliment, and do you think maybe you have like more avant-garde stuff that people tend to compliment as well? And do you think the people that compliment you are sort of like in your wheelhouse of style? Like, do you think maybe you hang around people that like, you know, fashion, like capital F fashion? Or maybe you're more like in a small town, or like maybe you go to that part of town where people are kind of like chill, you know, and people are just not worried about that stuff. Maybe where you are affects how people feel about your clothing. Obviously it does. But like I said, thank you guys for watching. Maybe I'll do a follow-up or something, like a different version of this video if it does well. Thank you guys for subscribing. If you're subscribed, please subscribe. And then also, yeah, have a great one.